Welcome back to Cal Park Bros. Jason and I are fresh off the mandatory vaccination segment. That, my friends, was straight heat rock, as some folks like to say. We are curious what a lot of you have to say about these mandatory vaccination decrees happening in some businesses. Yeah, I don't find a lot of this to be all that surprising. Frankly, some local Chicago businesses were doing some of this stuff before New York even tried to put it on the books. So, in this segment, we're going to be talking about hair discrimination and black hair discrimination specifically, because it seems to be, Jason, us being black men, we seem to hear from a lot of black men and black women about issues where they're being ostracized in schools or being ostracized in corporate workplaces. And there's been a lot of, especially with the BLM movement of recent note, there's been a lot of focus about, frankly, centering the black experience and making it so that those people who can be themselves in these spaces. I just happened to read up on this week because this is an article from WGN TV in Chicago. The Governor Pritzker signs a bill preventing hair discrimination in schools. He signed that legislation on Friday the 13th. Lawmakers said the bill, SB 817, addresses injustices in dress code policies and protects black youth facing hair bias in schools. Nobody should be made to feel less than for how they express themselves. So in Illinois, we're making it so school uniform and dress code policies in Illinois cannot prohibit or restrict hairstyles historically associated with race, ethnicity, or hair texture, said Governor Pritzker. The bill prohibits school uniform and dress code policies from restricting hairstyles that have been historically associated with race, ethnicity, or hair texture. This may include, but that is not limited to, braids, locks, and twists. The bill is also known as the Jet Hawkins Law, a 4-year-old Chicago boy who was told his braids were in violation of his school dress code. His mother, Ida Nelson, began raising awareness on the impacts of stigmatizing children's hair. At the press conference, State Senator Mike Simmons said the General Assembly is currently working on a bill that would extend the protection to the workplace. Aha, this is the part that I really care about. So, one, this bill goes into effect January 1st, 2022. So that'll be an important footnote. But really, it seems like there has been a groundswell of support for more legislation like this, Jason, not only in our schools, which really is where a lot of these wayward policies and ill-conformed policies can come from, and then they effectively set the culture for corporate America. So I'm thrilled that this was, because J.B. Pritzker gets a lot of shit for a variety of reasons. If it's not taxes, it's toilets, and if it's not toilets, it's masks in schools. But I feel like objectively, you got to acknowledge, hey, the governor did right by his people, man. So, and so did the lawmakers who effectively signed this bill into law. What are your thoughts hearing about, number one, the law that's been enacted, the fact that it's been enacted in some other states, and lastly, that we're still dealing with shit like this in 2021, man, where you effectively get criticized for being less than, almost as if you can't be a professional and have your hair a certain way when you're black.
Yeah, a few things to touch on that you kind of already hinted towards and referenced. So this is something that was done in Illinois, not just Chicago. Illinois has now the 14th state to adopt laws regarding the C.R.O.W.N Act, which the Crown C.R.O.W.N stands for Creating a Respectful and Open Workplace for Natural Hair. I think that's pretty awesome there. Now, like you said, it's not just limited to the workplace; it also applies to schools and stuff like that as well. But I mentioned the 14th state. So starting with California back in 2019, I believe July 2019, California was the first state. But the other states that have done this, including pretty recently this year, but again, California, Oregon, New York, New Jersey, Virginia, uh, Washington, Maryland, Connecticut, New Mexico, Delaware, believe it or not, Nebraska, and Nevada. Colorado. Sorry. Um, so obviously, it's a groundswell thing that's growing, and in fact, it's actually already been passed federally by the House of Representatives, and right now it's in the process with the Senate to get pushed through as well. And of course, as we know, once that happens, it'll be a federal thing covered by all 50 states. My thought on this initially is, this is awesome. I think this part kind of applies to you and me both. So the way we've worn our hair, even as kids and now, probably wouldn't have been in the eye of being discriminated against because, well, obviously now we don't really wear any. But even back in the day, I think the worst you might have had was like a high top fade, but that was really more at Calumet, so more of a black school. So probably wouldn't have saw any there. If we were to see any in the school, it would have been when we got the Shepherd. And even then, I didn't see any. I would love to hear from any other black females we went to school with back in those days, either in Calumet, or even some of the males who had, the dreadlocks or anything like that, or braids. Whether you were at the school we went to for grade school or at Shepherd, if you've experienced any of this, definitely we'd love to hear from you. calpartbros@gmail.com. Send us information there. But I have talked to people that I've worked with before, either at the current place I work or in previous situations, where they said they felt pressure, either directly or indirectly, to wear their hair a certain way because they felt like they might not get hired for a job, or they might affect their standing or status in regards to promotability within the company because of where they wear their hair. And even though we're talking about the C.R.O.W.N Act when it comes to, discrimination because of our hair, or the way we choose to wear our natural hair, because that's what this seems to be all about, that we're supposed to wear our natural hair, which I think some people may not understand what our natural hair is and what it can do or can't do. But when it comes to this, and I think I mentioned this to you the other day, is that what it comes down to, and you hinted to this, that unfortunately in times for us going to school and work, we feel like we have to suppress our blackness. Whether it's our hair, the clothes we wear, and I don't necessarily mean just dress codes in general, but the clothes we wear, the way we talk, stuff like that. There is that pressure for us to suppress our blackness. And sometimes some of that may extend to outside of school and work. But when it's happening at work or school, that's where the problem is, and that's why laws like this have to come into play. You mentioned Pritzker gets a lot of flack for all the stuff he does. Well, that is part of being a politician. No matter what you do, somebody's going to be happy, somebody's going to be mad, somebody's going to think you're doing a good thing, somebody's going to think it's pointless. And believe it or not, Terrence, him doing this is no different. And again, I know it's social media, so take it for what it's worth. But in that, there's a post he made on JB Pritzker on his Facebook page, which of course documents all the stuff he does. And he posted about that in particular on 4 days ago. And of course, the pictures of him in the school signing the bill and the act, people there from the schools, other people, including, I believe, the child we mentioned, who had in Chicago, experienced that discrimination because of his hair. He's right there next to Pritzker, so forth and so forth. So I was very curious when it comes to the comments people would make when it comes to how people feel about this. Now, of course, there are people who supported it, Um, People are happy about it. Some people agreed that they felt like it's very weird in 2021 that we had to have a law about this to not discriminate against somebody because of how they wear their hair. But then of course you have plenty of people out there who make the comment that is this what he's doing now? There's more important things that he could be doing right now, taxes, other things as well. Just not really understanding how they can be discriminated against, or people saying, "Well, if the school isn't letting you do this, just go to another school." Which anybody that knows about the public school system, probably in any state, you can't just up and go to another school. It's not always like that. So definitely mixed reviews when it comes to this. I think people just don't understand. Now, the one good thing I did see is some people were, of course, you're going to have idiots in the comment section of social media. That's what comes along with the territory. But there were some people out there trying to educate people and make people understand. Hey, you know what? I understand you don't get it, but this is how it really is. You might not feel like it's not important to you because you personally have never been discriminated against because of your hair or how you look, how you dress, how you talk. At least not when it comes to a job or school or work or anything like that. So it's definitely a good thing. I am very, even though this isn't specific to Chicago, like I've always said before, I don't like things that make our city look bad. Is this the biggest issue going on in Chicago? That's not for me to decide, but it's an important issue for the whole state, not just Chicago.
The world.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So, and even though I personally have never been affected by any hair discrimination, the fact that I know many women right now, youth and adults of Black descent, who do wear their hair naturally, and I personally think it's beautiful, I think about them who, have they gone through this yet? Will they go through this as they continue to, wear their hair naturally? Because natural hair movement, it's there, whether you're Black or even I've seen people who aren't Black do it because they recognize the beauty of it, number one, and they realize it might be better for their hair in some cases. So, and I won't call her out on the show per se, but there's a certain individual that you and I both know who chooses to wear their hair naturally. Someone close to us who is a youth that we both love. Uh, they're coming of age, and I hope that they can go through this world, hopefully through work and through school, that they don't have to go through this again or go through it anymore if they've already had it or just don't experience it at all. So I think this is a great thing, and I hope the U.S. Senate gets off their horse. And I hate to use that term. You know
Get
why?
up, Easter.
Yeah, but I hope. Thank you. But they need to take care of this and get it done for the whole country. So that way it can't happen anymore. And I'm going to go over some examples of high profile cases of this so people can kind of get an understanding of what we're talking about specifically. But Terrence, I want you to jump in here on this. Talk to
Yeah,
us.
I was thinking about there's a anchor for CBS2 Chicago. Her name's Audrina Bugos. Google her when you get a chance. And I was following her Instagram because she was talking about the internal debate about celebrating herself. She's been an anchor, a newswoman, world renowned, reputable, not only in our current position but also in other places as well. And she talked about the struggle for acceptance being a professional. And I'm like, okay, this woman is at the top of her game, top of her craft. And imagine having to deal with some bullshit like that where you have to literally go at your producers about how you're going to wear your hair. I mean, there's a little bit of racism there, but there's also a little bit of sexism there too, because you got a lot of times white men trying to tell in these newsrooms, effectively gatekeeping and saying, "Hey, that's not the standard," or "that is not acceptable here." And that I brought her up because I'm just like, what she brought up, it resonated with me because you mentioned the fact that, you know, someone like Gabrielle, and had this conversation with her. I'm like, listen, if you want to wear it a certain way, wear it a certain way, but know why you want to wear it a certain way. You know, if if women want to wear their hair a certain way, if black women want to, get it perm, great. If black women want to wear it and go all natural, also fucking great. Live life on your own terms. That's what this fight is about. Okay. I don't want to get into oh, and, you'll see this on social media sometimes where some troll will try and make some sort of commentary about the need for women to wear their hair a certain way. And Jason, I think you kind of hit the right notes when you talked about black women having to deal with a lot of this bullshit. And even though it's not because of our hairlines, it's not something that we really had to take head on, but it affects women in our lives, and it affects the culture. And for that reason alone, we have to bring it up. We have to acknowledge it, and we have to challenge people when they try and act like it's not a big deal, as if there isn't a legacy of self-hate really that was built on that. you know the beauty industry, there's a lot of ugliness in that, because a lot of the beauty industry is about making you hate yourself as the way you are in the first damn place. So that's a quote for you. So yeah, those are my thoughts on it, Jay. If women and black women especially want to be celebrated for doing their hair and doing it in the professional environment a certain way, then they have the right to do that, and we should be defending the right to do that. And in some cases, we will need to make an impassioned plea in person, and in some cases, we will need to advocate for laws to be changed, and not only laws to be changed, but also laws to be enforced. Because this is just because the House of Reps and the Senate signs this and the president ratifies it, that's not the end of it. Oh no. Because I can assure you there's going to be some asshole a year from now or 2 years from now that is going to try and undermine it. And it will fall to us, the general public. I thought this was America, people. And we will need to close ranks and say, hey, remember that thing that we said was important? And we'll have to defend it. So I hope we'll be ready.
Fingers crossed. But I mentioned a couple of high-profile cases. Some of this goes back a few years, or more than a few years, but still it's appropriate to what we're talking about. So, and some of you guys listening to this may remember hearing bits and pieces of this stuff in the news. One of these I certainly remember closely because it resonated with me a little bit. But in 2013, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission filed a lawsuit on behalf of Chastity Jones, who argued that the company that hired her before rescinding the job offer due to her locks had racially discriminated against her. With the help of the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, her case went to the Supreme Court, which declined to hear it and didn't provide any explanation, unfortunately. In August 2018, there was a young girl at Christ the King Elementary School in Terrytown, Louisiana, who was sent home from school because of her braided hairstyle with extensions. In response, the Archdiocese of New Orleans Superintendent Raynell Houston issued a statement reiterating the school's policy of only permitting students to wear their quote-unquote natural hair. Again, that term, natural hair. More recently, in December of 2018, a black high school student, this is the one I remember the most, a black high school student was forced to choose between cutting off his locks or forfeiting a wrestling match. The video footage, now I remember seeing the video of this, the video footage of his hair being cut went viral, resulting in the referee's suspension by the New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletic Association and an investigation by the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights. That's also when the governor Newsom became aware of the severity of this issue. Quotation, his dignity was exposed. His decision whether or not to lose an athletic competition or lose his identity came into, I think, stark terms for millions of Americans that never had that opportunity, said Newsom. That is played out in workplaces. It's played out in schools, not just athletic competitions and settings, every single day all across America in ways subtle or overt. Not too long after that, the ACLU of New Jersey put out a post, what looks like on Twitter, that said this. This is not about hair. This is about race. How many different ways will people try to exclude Black people from public life without having to declare their bigotry? We're sorry that this happened to you, Andrew. This was discrimination, and it's not okay. All this information, again, you can always Google it, of course, but I'm pulling this from an article that I found from Teen Vogue, which is granted from 2019, but still the information in it is pertinent. So those are just some examples, people, of what we're talking about when it comes to, and I don't want to just put this on Black people, but really anybody with that type of hair, basically being discriminated against in workplaces, schools, or even athletic competitions in one case. And I mentioned the one about the student, the wrestler, stood out to me because I remember seeing that video of him having his haircut. And as I'm reading that article, thinking about that again, for whatever reason, and I know this may be a horrible analogy, but it reminded me, and I kind of almost don't want to say this because I know it's not the same, but it reminded me of old movies I've seen of slave masters cutting the hair of their slaves. And again, I know it's not quite the same, but that's what it reminded me of.
I mean, it's closer than your last reference to slavery.
Bro, come on. See, never mind. See, this is how we're going to become Cal Park, bruh. Stuff like that, okay? But, but exactly. So hopefully, just me describing those situations kind of lets people know what we're talking about here. And again, the part I say about natural hair. Okay. Yes, maybe wearing braids and dreadlocks might not be the natural style of our hair, but it's still our natural hair. It's just a natural hairstyle that we can do with our natural hair. Just like anybody who doesn't have that type of hair can do hairstyles with their type of hair. Does that mean it's not their natural hair either? So I think that's what one thing people need to recognize, that, yeah, if you're listening and excuse me, are confused about things, again, our natural hair can be worn different hairstyles, but it's still our natural hair. It doesn't need to be permed or anything else, straightened, whatever you want to call it, just to satisfy you. So we have to succumb to, I'll put it out there, the supposed white standards of beauty. Okay? So that's really what we're kind of talking about here. And now, I mean, I'll go ahead and leave it at that because, again, this can go into a whole long segment, which not that we're afraid of that, but still. But yeah, hopefully those incidents kind of give people some insight into what we're actually kind of talking about here. Discrimination in the workplace because of our hair, because it's not straightened. Discrimination at an athletic event because it's not how it's supposed to be, quote unquote. Stuff like that. And again, and it's not quite as easy as just getting another job and going somewhere else, or going to a different school, or having to choose between not wrestling at a sport I love just because of my hair. So, people, if you have any other questions for us about this, want to get our opinions on it, we just gave some. But if you want some more, again, send us an email, send us a voice message, whatever. We'll talk to you. So yeah, just let us know. Go for it, bud.
Yeah, man. I think, you know, we've given you. I feel like if you don't understand it at this point, you're committed to not understanding it. Especially when you live in a country that is obsessed with touching Black people's hair.
Does that still happen, bro?
Like, what the fuck?
No, really. People still do that?
I mean, it hasn't happened to me and Gabrielle.
Do you know it hasn't happened to her?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it has happened. It has not happened while I have been there, but yes, it has happened. And no, it is not fucking cool. And no, I would not just act like it would be a fucking okay deal. I would make it a fucking event, okay?
Okay, so
I'm not saying I'm gonna throw hands over it. I'm saying I'm literally going to have a conversation with person X
you're not
saying
saying it. You're not saying you're going to throw hands at them, but you're not saying you're not going to do that. So
I am not uncertain.
now I do. I feel you, and I don't
Just
know. I don't know.
see yourself. Like
I don't.
why?
Well, I'm just saying. I don't know what age that might have happened to her, but I really damn sure hope that it wasn't an adult looking to do that. I mean, it's one thing if another kid did it, but if it was an adult looking to do that, then I might have to be in there throwing hands with you too. But yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, all right, that concludes our segment on the hair discrimination laws that have been enacted. Go JB. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about New York for another reason. Your boy Cuomo is out of there. Coming up next on Cal Park Bros.